She remembers the day she first met him, the sunlight falling softly on the park bench where he had been reading a worn book, and the way his laughter had filled the space around her like it belonged there, and she had felt an instant pull to someone she barely knew but somehow had always known, the kind of connection that does not require words but settles deep inside your bones and tells you this is home. And the way he looked at her was as if he could see every hidden corner of her soul and love it anyway, and they walked together for hours talking about everything and nothing, about dreams they carried secretly in their hearts and fears they never admitted out loud. And in that moment, she had never imagined that love could feel this heavy and light at the same time, that one could feel safe and exposed at the same time, that the future could be bright and fragile all at once. And the seasons passed, and they built a life together, a small home filled with laughter and arguments and quiet. Mornings where the coffee brewed and the sunlight spilled across their kitchen table, and he would always tease her about the way she hummed while she cooked, and she would roll her eyes and smile. And in those small moments the world felt perfect. And there's alone, but life has a way of turning the brightest days into shadows. And she remembers the hospital room, the smell of antiseptic that seemed to seep into her skin, and the beeping of machines that measured the fragile line between life and death. And he lay there so still, so pale, and yet when he saw her he smiled, that same crooked smile that had made her heart skip a beat the day they met, and he reached for her hand and whispered words she would never forget, saying, "Promise me you will finish the book we always dreamed of writing together. Promise me you will follow the road we planned, even if I am not there to walk beside you." And she had laughed through tears at first, thinking it was just one of his jokes, and then she realized the weight of it. The gravity of what he was asking of her, the courage that she would need to keep the promise, that the love they had shared could not die even if he did. And when the doctors said there was nothing more they could do, and the room fell silent except for the rhythm of her own broken heartbeat, she held him, as if, by holding him, she could pull him back from the darkness, and she whispered to him words of love that she had never said aloud in her life, telling him that she would keep every promise, that she would honor their dreams, that she would carry him with her in every step she took. And when he closed his eyes for the last time, she felt a part of herself shatter. And yet in that moment, she also felt a flicker of something she could not name, a spark of determination to live not just for herself, but for him, to make his dreams her mission, to turn the pain of losing him into purpose. And she went home empty-handed, yet full of memories, every room a reminder of laughter and touch and whispered secrets. And she began to write that book, the one they had planned together, each word a tribute to him, each sentence a conversation with a man who had loved her so fiercely. And she traveled the roads they had wanted to explore together, carrying his memory like a compass to guide her every step. And sometimes the nights were unbearable, the loneliness pressing against her chest so heavily that she thought she might not breathe, and yet she would reach for his photograph or the old letters he had written, and she would hear his voice in her mind telling her to keep going, to keep living, to honor what they had shared. And slowly the world opened up again for her, not fully healed, not fully whole, but moving forward with the echo of his love in her heart. And she met people who were inspired by her story, who told her that her devotion had touched them, that it had made them believe in love that endures even beyond death. And she began speaking at small gatherings, reading passages from the book they had dreamed of writing, telling strangers about the man who had changed her life and the promise she had kept. And every time she saw tears in the eyes of someone who had lost someone too, she felt his presence beside her, reminding her that love does not vanish. When a person is gone, it lingers in the choices we make and the courage we find in the dark. And she continued to write and travel and speak, and in each act she found both sorrow and joy, sorrow for the emptiness left behind and joy for the life she was able to live, because she had loved so completely. And when she looked in the mirror, she saw the woman he had always believed she could be strong enough to keep her word, and she whispered a thank you into the glass for the man who had taught her that even in loss love could be a guiding light. And she knew that as long as she breathed, as long as she spoke, as long as she wrote, as long as she remembered, she would never truly be alone, for he was stitched into the fabric of her existence, woven into the rhythm of her days. And the echo of his laughter carried her through mornings and nights, through pain and hope, through tears and smiles, through every step of the road. She now walked for him, and with him, always in the quiet. Moments when the wind rustled the trees outside her window, she could hear his voice saying, "Keep going, keep believing, keep loving," and she did for the rest of her life, carrying his dreams as her own, carrying his love in every heartbeat, carrying the promise she had whispered to him in that hospital room, the promise that she would never let their love fade, the promise that she would live fully, boldly, beautifully, even in the absence of the one who had made her heart whole. And every book she wrote, every speech she gave, every life she touched carried the invisible thread of a man who had loved her so deeply that even death could not erase him, and she understood finally that keeping a promise is not just about following instructions or honoring a word. It is about letting love become action, about letting loss be transformed into purpose, about letting grief guide you to something larger than yourself. And as the years passed, she often walked along the paths they had dreamed of walking together, the sun setting over the horizon, painting the sky with colors they had once admired together, and she would pause, close her eyes, and breathe, and feel him there in the warmth on her skin, in the whisper of the breeze, in the quiet rhythm of her heart. And in that presence, she felt both the ache of missing him and the joy of having loved him so completely, and she whispered once again the words she had promised him so long ago, "I am keeping my promise, I am living for us both." And in that vow she found peace and strength and the unending echo of a love that no time, no distance, no absence could ever diminish. And so she continued walking, writing, speaking, loving, carrying his dreams and their shared life in every breath, in every heartbeat, in every step, knowing that she had done what she had sworn to do, and in that she was whole. Even if broken, she was whole, and she would continue to be whole, carrying him with her always, forever. And in that truth she discovered the courage to face each new day, the hope to embrace every dawn, the strength to turn sorrow into beauty, and she lived fully and painfully and beautifully, honoring the man who had taught her that love transcends loss and promises are the most sacred bridges between hearts. And even when she was old and her hands were worn and her voice had softened, she could still feel him beside her, guiding her footsteps, whispering words of love, and reminding her that she had kept her promise, and she had, and in keeping it, she had kept him alive for as long as she lived. And in every story she told, every life she touched, every book she published, every step she walked, she carried his memory and the promise she had made. And she knew that love once truly given never fades, and promises made in love are never broken, and she was living proof of both.